We begin in Gaza, in the southern city of Rafah, where around 110,000 Palestinians are reported to have fled since Monday, when they were warned to evacuate by the IDF military ahead of, quote, a direct targeted operation, the effects of which would lead to President Biden pausing a shipment of military aid to Israel and signals to the Israeli government, if it goes ahead with a major offensive, some weapons shipments will be stopped. On Benjamin Netanyahu's response, if we have to stand alone, we will stand alone. If we need to, we will fight with our fingernails. Well, this afternoon, there are reports that Israel is planning an extended offensive in Rafah. Let's cross to Jerusalem. Let's bring in Irris Makler, our correspondent there. Irris, good to talk to you. Good to see you this evening. Tell us about the reports, this extended operation and what it could mean.
Extended operation or, and I'm quoting, measured expansion. It's not exactly clear what it could mean because the warning from Washington was stark and it came from high-level officials and then it came from the president himself. So it is stark, and what I guess Israeli politicians are trying to do is to have some kind of expanded operation in Rafah without infringing on the red line that President Biden set, which was, he said, no major offensive in Rafah. He won't support that. He won't help that. So is this measured expansion going to cross that red line? It definitely risks it, doesn't it? Just by definition. So what we're hearing is Israel taking a risk, taking some action, and at the same time instructing that the negotiations for a ceasefire deal continue, even though some of the people, some of the parties have already left Cairo. So how exactly they're to continue, I'm not quite clear. But that the two things go hand in hand: an expanded operation in Israeli strategic terms, that is, and some kind of continuation of the negotiations for a hostage deal and a ceasefire.
To try to understand what's going on right now in Rafah, the humanitarian situation for civilians, in terms of the fighting operations being reported, what's your understanding of what's going on right now?
What we're hearing from sources inside the Gaza Strip is, first of all, that there is an expansion. Israeli tanks have moved further into the city on the eastern side. So they haven't gone way into the city. They're still surrounding the city from the south and the east, moving up around it to the northeast as well. And we have heard from Palestinian sources inside that there is constant gunfire and explosions, and that explains why there's something between 110,000 people who fled since Monday, or 150,000. 110,000 is the UNRWA estimate. 150,000 is what the IDF says. But what UNRWA goes on to say is these people who have fled on Israeli instructions are going to looking for a safer place, but they stress there is nowhere that is really safe in Gaza. We have seen renewed fighting, by the way, Gavin, in the north as well, in an area the IDF had cleared, gone away from, and now returned to. And we saw four Israeli soldiers dying there in a fight with Hamas. And that fight, that was an IED, an unexploded, a roadside bomb that killed them. And we've seen rockets being fired as far as Beersheba, a city in southern Israel, but one that is not within the usual range. So Hamas keeping its rocket fire, showing it's still in the game. And I think Hamas quite concerned about Rafah, actually.
What about the leader of Hamas, Irris, Yahya Sinwar? Is there a suggestion that he is somewhere still within a tunnel somewhere in Rafah?
That was the suggestion originally. There's no doubt Rafah is very important to Hamas because it contains the one border crossing to the outside world, and then underneath it, tunnels to the outside world. That's where most of the goods that built all these extensive network of tunnels, that's where they came in from. So I think that is important to Hamas. Is Yahya Sinwar there? Is he on the move? You know, was he in Khan Yunis? Now he's moved to Rafah. Now he's moved back to Khan Yunis now that Israeli soldiers have retreated. You know, no one knows that network of tunnels better than those people who built it. There is a suggestion that he might have gone out, you know, into Egypt, into the tunnels underneath there. But the best information appears to be that he still is in the Gaza Strip. And interestingly, that's been confirmed by one of the hostages who was released early in the piece, very early in the piece, actually, after about 2 weeks. And she said she actually saw him And he said to her, he came into the tunnel where they were being held, and he said to her, "Do you know who I am?" And she said, "Yes, you're Yahya Sinwar." And she began to berate him for the action of October the 7th, very brave, because she said to him, "We are the peacemakers, we who live in the south of the country, we're the people who believe in a solution. We've always held our hands out to you, and this was no way to repay us." So a very brave woman, and we do know that that means that early on, Yahya Sinwar was still in the Gaza Strip. I'd say he probably still is. If he left, it would feel, I think, to the rest of the people who are fighting for him that he wasn't their leader anymore.
It's an incredible story. Irris, thank you, our correspondent in Jerusalem.